microscope in the White House and watched her stand beside her mom during one of the nastiest campaigns in modern history. So even though her new book isn't a memoir, the title suits her. Please welcome the author of She Persisted, Chelsea Clinton. Before we start talking about the book, you were one of the first people to sort of pull everybody's coattail and say, you know, you never want to joke about the assassination of a president.
No.
Regard to Kathy.
And
No. I mean, I hope that we are in a place as a country where we at least can agree on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I would hope that we can at least agree that it's never funny to joke about violence toward anyone.
Yeah.
And particularly in this politically charged moment
Yeah.
toward our president.
That's right. Yeah. Right. Excellent. You know, when your mother didn't win the election, you know, a lot of people on my team were very upset and devastated and really surprised, frankly. You too. I mean, your mother too. I mean, I saw her commencement speech at Wellesley, and she's saying, you know, she hit the bottle.
Well, I think that's an overstatement.
Little Chardonnay, organizing her closet.
Little Chardonnay, maybe, and a lot of Charlotte, thankfully.
Oh,
yeah, a lot
yeah,
of
but I was
time with our
wondering,
grandkids.
there are ways to cope. You know, I organize closets when I have a bad time, or I clean the refrigerator.
Oh, me too.
You do that too?
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, how did you help your mom to cope with it after this devastating loss to the country?
We spent lots of time with my children. My son Aiden is 11 months old now. My daughter Charlotte is 2.5.
That's nice.
And the unexpected blessing
Yes, I know.
has been all the time that we've been able to spend together as a family. Charlotte right now is obsessed with Peter Rabbit. And so a couple weekends ago, we planted a garden at my parents' house in Chappaqua, which was really nice. So seeing my mother and my father like dig in the dirt with my daughter was just like such an unforeseen gift that my daughter was giving me to see my parents in that way. Because although I'm sure that we did that as a child, because my mother told me we planted tomatoes and petunias and other things.
You don't remember it, though?
I don't remember that.
Because it's all been political.
Well, no, just because I was 3 and I don't remember that.
No, but I mean, I'm talking about since then, as a child, you probably had to witness them in politics mostly.
No, I mean, my memories as a kid are, you know, my parents coming to my dance recitals or my choir recitals or helping me with my science homework.
Which is wonderful. And aren't grandparents something? Like, they treat the grandkids in ways you would never experience yourself.
Yeah, it's the best.
Right? Unbelievable.
I think my husband is one of 11. And so, yes, I know, Sarah, one of 11. And so my mother-in-law has a brood of grandkids. Wow. So when
She's still standing.
She is, amazingly. And so when we told her, you know, we were expecting our first child, she was so excited that our first child was going to join the family, right? My parents acted as if like the whole universe had shifted.
Yes.
And I think it's good for our kids that kind of they have this team on my husband's side, and that now they really are the center of the universe for my parents.
That's
And I
nice.
think that's a real blessing.
We want to switch gears a little bit, just get into a little bit of politics. Your mom recently claimed, she was asked in an interview about the election, and she said that if it weren't for Comey's interference, Russia's interference, that it's likely that she would be president right now. And a lot of her supporters felt that they wanted to see more from her in that moment. They wanted her to take some personal responsibility for voters' trust issues with her, for maybe the Democratic Party not having a great ground game in some states and not having messaging in some states that was really good, so that they could fix the problem moving forward. Has she changed her mind about how to approach this topic to kind of ease her supporters' worries and maybe facilitate growth for the party in the future?
Well, Jedediah, I think there are lots of questions in there. My mother has talked about this herself. She's working on a book now about the election. I had the privilege of campaigning in so many states for her, and I met so many of the remarkable organizers and volunteers. And as she said, she's never going to blame her team. She had an amazing team of supporters, of surrogates, of staff. More than 1 million people volunteered as part of her campaign effort. And so she's incredibly grateful for that. And she's proud of the swell in this country that is still fighting to protect our health care, fighting to ensure that hopefully we maybe do stay in the Paris Climate Accord, and all the things that she campaigned so hard for. And for me, I now think about my children, with all due respect to my mom, more than I think about my mom and the world that I want them to be able to grow up in. And that's kind of where I think my responsibility now lies as a mother and as a citizen. What can I do to help build the world that I want them to grow up in? Part of that is common decency, as we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
And part of that is standing up for policies that I think are important for all children.
But she also has taken some of the blame for it. I've heard her say that. And maybe people can have two thoughts in their head at once. It was the Russians, and I did make mistakes. She said it.
She did.
What do they want from her?
She did.
Well, we're never going to know.
Like you
we're
said,
never going to know.
you may love your mother
Yeah.
more than you do.
We can split credit on that.
Okay.
I try to think of it differently.
I have seen a change in you, though. You weren't very political, I think, of course, growing up. And then on Twitter, though, lately, you've gotten really feisty and kind of sassy. You tweet about healthcare, you tweet about the environment. So I have to ask you, is it con fefe or con fifi? And what does it mean?
I think it can mean whatever we each want it to mean, right? I mean,
Yes.
even the dictionary sort of said, they were going to stay out of it, right? Merriam-Webster
Yes.
also arguably has gotten a little bit spicier since the election.
That's a good account to follow.
It is a good account to follow. I think that we have so many more important issues confronting us today.
Yeah.
I mean, even this morning, in addition to the rumored withdrawal from the Paris Climate Accords, another rumor that the Trump administration is going to take away every woman's right to free contraception as part of their employer-mandated insurance. So there's a lot that I think we need to focus on. But comic relief is important too. And so, con fifi, con fefe,
But why have you gotten
tomato?
Why are you spicier now? Is there your mother isn't running anymore? Is there
Maybe
perhaps
she's pissed.
Yeah,
Well, I think
maybe. Just curious.
Well, last year, I did hundreds of events and interviews throughout the campaign. Was grateful to be kind of on The View as part of that. And what I'm saying now on social media, I was saying in interviews and on the stage. I mean, I was not shy in calling out, everyone, calling out my concerns about, I know you were talking about fake news earlier, sort of, fake news and fake science around vaccinations, for example, or my concern that we've lost sort of a scientific consensus around climate change and so much else.
But have we all lost that?
Well, hopefully not.
Couple people.
Hopefully not. Or calling out hate speech when I see it, and also standing up for common decency. Because to your point about holding two thoughts in our heads and our hearts, I think we have to both be able to say, this is unacceptable from a common decency perspective. This is unacceptable from an American values perspective. Even if the person who may be saying something is otherwise someone we might agree with.
Yeah.
So,
well, you've said you're not interested in running for a political office, but your political tweets do give people hope. Is there anything that would change your mind?
I think, as I've said before,
You made that.
I don't think being a citizen is something that just happens on Election Day.
Yeah.
You know, I think registering to vote, showing up to vote is hugely important.
Yes.
Right.
I also think
learned that.
standing up for what we believe, saying what we believe, saying what we're both for and against, standing in opposition to and an affirmation of, I think is hugely important. I am incredibly encouraged, Sarah, by the more than 13,000 young women who've reached out to Emily's List, Off the Sidelines, and others saying they now want to run for office.
Yes.
For city council, for the school board, for state legislatures, for Congress. And so I hope that we will have more women throwing their hat in the ring, and I look forward to supporting some of those women in the future.
Yes. So everybody calm down. It's not happening in 2020. But what is happening is that we're going to come back with more with Chelsea Clinton.